I don't know if you've heard about that album, the Sleep album.
Oh, I love that. I love it.
This is a perfect example of an artist that's making the numbers work for them. Do you want to tell us about it, Jake?
Look, I don't know too much about it, and I can't even remember the name of the band, but basically what they did... Sorry?
Neither can I. It's a really hard name to say, but it's a brilliant story.
Basically, they put together a silent album, and they put it up on Spotify. And the idea behind it was if everybody just kept listening to this album and listened to it in their sleep, obviously it was a silence, so they weren't, it wasn't going to wake them up. They'd actually start to make some money off Spotify because obviously they weren't seeing the pennies from that service or from streaming. So this was, I suppose, them making a stand, and it was great. It started a conversation online, and it grew from there. And it was a really interesting exercise. What I thought was most interesting about it was the way that Spotify actually handled it by leaving it up there, and they eventually reached out to the band and said, look, okay, we get it, it's funny. Do you think you can take your Sleep album down now? Or perhaps they just took it down, but they did communicate with the band, and now the band's put out a follow-up song. Have you heard it, Lee?
No.
Right. Okay. So now the band's put out a follow-up song about the whole situation and streaming royalties, which is pretty funny.
And do you know how much they made out of that?
I have no idea.
Fucking $20,000.
Yeah. Right.
How do you make $20,000 out of streaming with a real album, let alone with a silent album?
It's that top 1%. That's
totally. Jamie, have you heard about this story?
No. This is news to me.
I'll email you with some links. It's fantastic, and this was a great example of a band that started to understand how the service worked, and they used that to their advantage. And this is, who better to be creative entrepreneurs than artists? And this is what we want to encourage people to be doing. Use this shit to your advantage and start working with it so that this is business. This is, there's nothing that says that artists shouldn't be making money and that they shouldn't be manipulating the system to help them make money. And that was a great example.
That's artists being artists, isn't it? There were people that broke the mold of the 3-minute song. There were people that broke so many molds as artists, and what's the difference in breaking that mold on an LP as opposed to a streaming store?
Yeah.
Or, it sounds like something Frank Zappa would have done in 1972, right? And so awesome about it. So that's a great story, but it's another example of, use all this stuff, but you're still an artist, and you still should maintain your individuality and be yourself and do what you do, because that's really ideally beyond money. When you're dead, the money's not going to be useful to you anymore, but your music will still be out there.